Hey, welcome to The Only Chip in the Cookie. I'm your host, Larry from Iowa. Guys, it's been a while. Sorry for the wait, but thank you for tuning in. I want to give a shout out to everybody that's been listening to the past 11 or so episodes. Thanks to everyone that's been visiting the website, neighborhoodtwit.com and ordering shirts and merchandise and the apparel and really just supporting the podcast. Thank you so much. Your support means a lot to me. Man, I must have rewritten this episode so many times. There's been so much that's been going on within the last few weeks with regards to the pandemic, the presidential election, and frankly, Trumpism. Now, one of the main points of this podcast is to provide a point of view or perspective of Black folks at work or people of color at work. Two different things, by the way. I don't like how some people try to lump Black people and people of color, in the same category. We'll go into that maybe a little bit later. But, at this point, when people are talking about Donald Trump and Trump supporters and things like that, it's really beyond a political conversation. Because there are Republicans, there are Democrats, and then there are Trump supporters. And I want to make the distinction clear because there are a lot of managers and leaders in corporate America that not only support Donald Trump, but they have Trump memorabilia and paraphernalia and flags and bumper stickers and things like that in the office on display. They openly talk about support for that individual. And I want to just talk very briefly on what that means to the Black people in your office. And before we go the Candace Owens route, yes, there are some outliers out there. There are some Black Trump supporters. We definitely don't all think the same. But I am speaking from a general perspective. And frankly, to us, when we see Trump, when we see anything related to him, it puts us in a defensive state because, frankly, a lot of what he represents is violence towards people that look like me or violence towards the brown community as well. Saying that we're from shithole countries, referring to Mexicans as rapists and things like that. And, 4 years ago, it was all brand new. We didn't really know a lot about how he really felt. But as we've seen year over year over year, there's been a lot of violence that has been caused by folks that support him. And this is beyond politics because you'll find that a lot of people that support him, they typically can't name specific policies of his that they endorse or that they stand by. Then you have this guy that is telling white supremacists to stand back and stand by. You've got this guy who is supposed to be the head of state, saying, with regards to the death of Heather Heyer, a civil rights activist, that there are fine people on both sides, right? And if you are a leader within an organization, you have to ask yourself as a leader, what do we stand for as an organization? It's one thing to either it's I guess it's one thing to have a stance that people of all political affiliations are welcomed, but it's another to accept the support of a white supremacist. It's another to perpetuate and enable people that side and support a violent person into your workspace. I'm just going to leave it at that. If you are a leader, if you're a manager, if you're a vice president, if you're an executive, if you're a CEO, you need to have a clear understanding of what Trumpism is and what it means to your marginalized groups of employees that work for you. Leaders, you have to ask yourself, especially those of you guys that are promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion right now, what do you stand for and what don't you stand for? Because a lot of you guys do have leaders out there that are actively supporting a white supremacist, and it's not a good look. It's not a good look. It's beyond not a good look. I'll just leave it at that. I want to let you guys know this is actually the season finale of The Only Chip in the Cookie. We're going to take a brief hiatus. I've got some surprises coming for season 2. And also, I want to let you guys know I am actively looking for a co-host of the show. I would love a black female co-host to also share a perspective. You only get my half, right? You only get the black male perspective of what it's like to be the only chip in the cookie. I would love a black female co-host. So I'm putting those vibes out there right now. If anyone is listening to this and you, whether you have experience with hosting or podcasting or not, hey, I didn't have any experience at all until I created this one. But yes, I would love a female co-host, a black female co-host. So holler at me. Today's episode features a great friend of mine, Janelle Moore. She grew up with me in Des Moines, Iowa. We've known each other for a super long time. She's out in LA now. She's doing a bunch of amazing things, and I'm excited for you guys to learn all about her.
All right, welcome back to The Only Chip in the Cookie. Today, we've got a very special guest. This person, good friend of mine. I've known her pretty much all of my life. Ladies and gentlemen, Janelle Moore.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
Janelle is one of my longest friends of all time.
We're old, so.
We are old. We are old. Janelle.
Yes.
This podcast, it's called The Only Chip in the Cookie. What does it mean? What does it mean to be the only chip in the cookie? And have you ever been the only chip in the cookie?
I definitely have. I think anyone who is a minority or, black, brown, I feel like there most likely has been a moment where you have been the only chip in the cookie for sure. And especially for us growing up where we grew up, and it's just, but for me, it kind of even translates even more than just a racial thing, I think it could also just be being around other people that can't relate to you, regardless of what, that might be. So I definitely have been, whether it's a situation where I've been even at like a wedding where it was just all white people and I was the only black person, that type of thing, kind of feeling, or just being with a group of people and you just feel out of place, or there's certain things that you just can't relate to, whether it's culture wise and, but yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Describe the racial makeup of your neighborhood or your community growing up, and talk to me about like when you first became conscious of like race as even being a thing.
As you know, and can relate to, I went to school in Johnston for, my earlier grade school years. And so it was my parents' decisions to transfer me to Des Moines Public Schools, which I'm so grateful for, because they knew the importance also of, being in a more diverse group of people. So in my neighborhood, I mean, the interesting thing is if you were to ask me about growing up, grade school, middle school, and whether there was discrimination, and I don't know if it was just being the age and maybe it was an ignorance is bliss type thing, but I feel like I never really was aware of any of that, like racism. I didn't feel like too out of place most of the time. I guess going to Meredith and Hoover, I feel like we had a good mix of people, students.
Yeah.
So we had, different groups, and I had a diverse group of friends, white, Black, Asian, everything. So Indian, so I feel like, and I feel like when I tell people I'm from Iowa, they assume that I was one of the only few Black people,
Yeah.
obviously. But and I always tell them, no, there's more, Black people there than you think there are. But being aware, I mean, I think that there were times when I was younger, which I think a lot of girls growing up go through, is like wanting to be, I wouldn't say wanting to be white, but wanting to have more white features, maybe, especially as young women. I think like I wanted straight hair. I wanted my hair, silky. I wanted to be skinnier, like my white friends were, and I think that was I kind of had issues accepting my Black features sometimes, during those adolescent ages, definitely.
Well, I mean, it's just kind of like rammed down everybody's throats, like all of the, the Disney princesses and the toys that were marketed towards girls, it was all about the bright blue eyes and the blonde hair and,
right.
And so that's, I know that you definitely weren't alone in that because, I can think of, women in my family, who when they were girls, they struggled with that and they only wanted to play with specific dolls and stuff like that. And, it's, that's a serious thing for sure. For sure.
Definitely. It is.
Yeah.
But then I also felt being mixed, it was kind of, I feel like there's also kind of that phase. Maybe not everyone who is mixed race goes through it, but it's kind of like, oh, you're more one than the other, or you're not enough of this, like, oh, you're not Black enough, or, because you're just mixed, it's just kind of, that's like another thing that also was an issue as well.
Yeah. So you said you're mixed, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, I know your mom and dad, obviously, but talk to the listeners about your parents.
Okay.
Like
so
their racial makeup or whatever.
So my mother's Korean, but was born and raised in Japan. So culturally, we were more Japanese growing up. And my father is Black from the south side of Chicago. That's it.
Yeah. Both of our dads, by the way, are from the south side of Chicago. I think that's pretty cool. Yeah. So Janelle, talk to us a little bit about you and who you are and a little bit about your life after Des Moines.
Life after Des Moines. Well, I think for me, I knew since I was very young that I wanted to get out of Des Moines because I was very fortunate to travel a lot, mostly with my dad growing up. And I saw so many different places, so many different cultures. So I always knew that there was more out there. And I mean, I love Des Moines with all my heart, obviously. I love coming back. It's a great place. I mean, I wouldn't have wanted to grow up anywhere else, but I just knew that there was just more. I've always loved bigger cities. And so did I think I would end up in LA? No, I didn't. I just kind of ended up out here. But I've always loved California. So, I mean, after Des Moines, I was in Arizona for a few years, then made my way further west. And now I work for films. I have a very LA job. every time someone asks me, they're like, wow, that's very LA. I work for a film studio and I'm a yoga instructor. So
Oh, wow.
very typical LA jobs. But I mean, I love it. I love it here. I just love, there's the culture, the weather, obviously. It's just a whole different vibe, a little more laid back and not as family oriented as Des Moines. Not that I'm not family oriented, but I think being, the age that I am and single, not married and kids, it's not frowned upon as much out here as it would be back in the Midwest, I think, so I feel a little bit more free, or less judged maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. So describe your neighborhood. What is it like and compare it to the neighborhood you grew up in?
Oh gosh. I love the neighborhood that I grew up in. I go by my old house all the time. Don't tell the owners that, but I mean, the people that live there, like stalking them. I think now it's so different because I live in a very walkable neighborhood. So, I mean, in Des Moines, it's like you couldn't really walk, a couple blocks and some places you could like go to the store and to a movie theater and, let's have all these shops and everything just walking distance. And so the neighborhood that I am in now, it's very, I can walk to Whole Foods across the street. I can go to all these little mom and pop shops, everywhere. And there's hiking trail, there's mountains, things like that. Just more outdoor activity. Yeah.
What originally brought you out to Los Angeles?
So when I was in Arizona, I somehow started to develop an interest in film and television. So that actually was what kind of wanted me to move out here, because obviously that's where the entertainment industry, everything happens. So, which is funny because I studied sports management in college, used to love sports, don't like sports anymore. Like interests just change as you get older. It's kind of weird, but so film and TV, I took some film classes at Arizona State actually, and then I got a job. I knew that I couldn't move to LA without a job because it's so expensive here. It was too big of a risk to take. But I was actually able to transfer to a job with UCLA Health that was comparable to the job that I had in Arizona at the time. And then I kind of just fell into film. So I got kind of lucky, I would say, because it is a lot about like who you know and Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Didn't I see you on the silver screen maybe a few years ago?
Gosh.
You and some celebrities.
Yes, you did. And so that was a really fun experience. Tell
us what it was.
Okay. I'm a weird pop culture whiz. I don't know why. I just have knowledge about celebrity names, who they're dating, everything about them. And so I thought, okay, maybe I can put this to good use. And so I was on a TV show called Hollywood Game Night. And you play with celebrities on your team, and it's just like pop culture games and everything. And it was really fun experience. It was weird seeing myself on TV, but it was a lot of fun though.
Yeah. So who was on your team?
On my team, it was Mel B, Scary Spice, Pete Wentz, and Kevin Nealon. And Pete Wentz, like, he killed it. He's pretty much won for me. And then we played against Niecy Nash, Cedric the Entertainer, and Ming Na Wen. And they were all so great. It was so fun. We got to drink like while we were doing the show. It was one of those shows. So
yeah.
It was awesome.
That's crazy. And your team won?
Yes, we won.
So you got a check?
Yes.
Oh, hell yeah.
It was nice. Yeah, so it was really nice. It was fun. And it was funny because when I thought to myself, oh, it's kind of funny that I, got this check, using some of it to pay off these student loans, using knowledge that I didn't even learn in college. It was just kind of funny using random pop culture knowledge to win money, but it was really fun. Yeah,
that's awesome. That's awesome. Have you ever thought about doing more TV or?
You know what? Actually, I was on another game show. It aired like a couple of weeks ago, but I didn't tell too many people about it.
Wait a minute. So you're dropping an exclusive.
I know, exclusive.
Exclusive.
Some people caught it and they saw me on it. My sister posted on Facebook, which I didn't really want her to, but it was Wheel of Fortune, and that was
what?
I know. I'm like, I was just on. It's just no big deal. It was only Wheel of Fortune, but that was like my dream game show though. Like I watched that show with my mom since I was, little, and it was just like I've always wanted to go on. We did auditions. It was all during COVID too. So we did the auditions via Zoom, and then we filmed it, a few months ago, but all social distancing, masks, all of that. So it was a really cool experience. I didn't do as well as I did on the other show, but it was still fun.
Wow.
I know.
So like when you spun that wheel, did it almost break your back? It looks like it's heavy as hell.
It's heavy, but it's a lot smaller than you think it is. It's interesting. It's small, but it is heavy.
Wow. Oh my
I'll
god.
have to find like a clip or something and like show you, but I didn't even remind people, like even my immediate family. Like I told my sister, I think 15 minutes before it was airing, and she wasn't even at home. She was so mad at me, but they ended up taping it. But I didn't really even tell a lot of people or remind them. It was just like, well, whatever.
Did you not tell anybody because you sucked at it?
That wasn't really the reason. And I didn't suck. No. The wheel wasn't my friend that day.
Oh, okay.
But no, I don't know. I just kind of, it's one of those things, and I know I advertised the last time, but as I've gotten older, I almost feel like I feel more private or something. I just feel weird just like advertising myself. Like I just have a hard time with social media to begin with. So it's just, I was just like, well, I'm not going to just, put this. So.
Yeah. I get it.
Whoever saw it.
Yep. If you know, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was not in the know. So, but I'll do I'll do a little Google search, and I'm sure I'll be able to.
Might be on YouTube or something.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I want to talk about your interest and your transition into yoga. And so a lot of folks that grew up with us, they know you as, being an athlete and definitely a baller on the court, So I wasn't necessarily surprised to see that you were like getting into yoga and practicing yoga.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really intrigued by the fact that you're teaching now and kind of where you're teaching and what your mission is. So talk to us about this yoga experience.
No, definitely. So it started about, I would say 5 years ago now. What? I can't even keep track of time anymore. So the reason why, so there was a period over a few months where I was actually going in and out of the doctor's office doing a bunch of tests because they thought that I may have had an autoimmune disease of some kind, because just weird test results and things were happening. And so I kind of just did some research and about what I could do to reduce inflammation and everything. And so yoga just kept coming up, and so I said, okay, let me just try this yoga thing. So I just started taking classes, and I feel like I kind of had that same mentality about it, or expectations, it's all this like foo-foo, like it's like you're just stretching, it doesn't do anything else, you're just stretching, so I was kind of hesitant, and I didn't think, because being more athletic and always doing more cardio and lifting weights and things like that, it was totally different from anything I've done. So but I started to do it, and I just kind of fell in love with it, and I realized it did kind of help me feel just more calm, more balanced, more just patient, which is interesting, just doing a practice and how it can really affect your mind.
Mm-hmm.
But then interestingly, everything was fine at the doctor. Since I've done yoga, and I'm not saying this is why, and that this is a cure for everything, but I have been having, my visits have been totally fine. Like there's nothing, it's just been different. So I definitely think it has helped. It is great for health, and which is a lot to do with just like your mental health, and stress can cause so much on your body. So I think just relieving that stress and taking time to breathe and everything. So I just fell in love with it so much though that I wanted to, learn more about it. And even when I took training, I thought, am I going to actually be a teacher? It was kind of more just learning more about yoga.
Mm-hmm.
But then I thought, I think I can do this. So then I started teaching, and I just really loved it. And I think for me, it's more about, just the experience and continuing learning as a teacher and a student, because since I do work full time, like yoga is not my full time career, so I don't depend on money for it. So I do a lot of volunteer teaching as well, which I love.
Yeah. Now, is it true that you were teaching yoga at a women's prison?
Actually, a men's prison.
A men's prison?
Yes.
Oh my God.
I know everyone assumes that it's a women's prison, but it's
I know.
it's a California State Prison. There's a really, really great organization I became involved with called Prison Yoga and Meditation that I just found randomly, and I thought, oh, this sounds like a really interesting, population to teach yoga to. So I did the training and everything, and I've gone there a few times, and it's so rewarding. It's interesting because I had never been in a prison before.
Yeah.
But I never felt intimidated or scared or anything like that. And all of the men were really respectful, and they just love it. They really love the yoga. So it's definitely a different experience. But then you kind of also think like, oh, what are they in here for? It's like, we can't do certain things. Like I can't wear tight yoga clothes. We have rules, so certain poses aren't appropriate.
Okay. So no downward dog.
Right. It's great though. Yeah. And I also teach at, did before COVID, the Midnight Mission, which is a homeless shelter downtown, which is also great. And I also just thought it was important to, I think people just have certain beliefs about people that are homeless, like, oh, they're all drug addicts or this and that. But I feel like so many have a different story, and we don't really know what happened. So I just wanted to learn more. And I've connected with a few of the people staying there, actually. I actually text with one like almost every day.
Really cool.
And he's always like talked about how he misses doing yoga and everything. So it's just really rewarding. It's just all about helping, other people.
Yeah. That's, I feel like I'm seeing a lot of like Black folks gravitating towards yoga and meditation recently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you mentioned something about meditating earlier too. So is that a part of your kind of like your self-care process, or?
I need to meditate more. I will admit that. And I'm one of those people that does find it hard to kind of just stop thinking about things, overthinking or just being still. So I use yoga as my meditation, because I feel like when I doing the class, it's interesting. And that was one of the things that I did notice, which is what I fell in love with it. It was like, if I did a class for an hour, no matter what was going on before I got there or everything, it was almost like for that hour, it was just gone. Like I was so focused on, the class or the pose, or it could be challenging. So you're so focused on breathing and doing the poses that you kind of just forget about everything else. And so I was like, wow, like I didn't even think about anything, for that whole hour. Yeah.
So how did you get into yoga? Did you just like start watching videos on YouTube? Did you go to a gym?
I actually started going to, and luckily for being in LA, obviously there's so many yoga studios to choose from. So I kind of just went through each one and did the free week special. I just tried out a few, and you kind of just see what you like, and everything like that. But yeah, I just like started to go in person. And that's another thing. I've done videos online occasionally, but I'm more of like that in person to person interaction. And that's why it's also been difficult for me to teach via Zoom now, like teaching through a video. It's just like a totally different experience, not being there. And as teachers, we adjust and we touch people, which we can't do anymore for a while. So it's just a very different, it's different now.
Yeah. Okay. How long have you been teaching?
I've been teaching for 3 years now, almost 3 years.
Gosh.
I know, it's so weird. I feel like it was last year or something.
Yeah. So I know this is kind of a part-time thing, but do you teach multiple times a week, or?
I do. Right now, I used to teach at a studio a few times a week, but since they closed down, I just have a couple of private clients that I teach 2 times a week normally. Or I do special events, like I did a bachelorette thing on the beach yesterday. So yeah, yeah, it was pretty fun.
Oh my God.
People can always contact me if they ever have any questions about it, or if they do want to do a video session, you know, things like that. So I'm always open to that.
Okay, so I got some questions about yoga.
Okay.
First of all, who can do it?
And who can do it? Anyone. Pretty much everyone. And it's funny because people always have excuses and they're like, oh, I'm not going to be good at it and flexible, but it's not really a thing you're like good at, you know? I mean, it's kind of just, everyone has their own practice and they go their own pace and everyone's different. And they get different things out of it. But yeah, absolutely anyone. I teach women that are like 65 and over. I teach younger people. I teach incarcerated men. So, I mean, absolutely everyone.
Yeah.
Can do it.
Okay. All right. And so, and you talked about, you said you started doing yoga and, you know, you were getting some positive effects, but I guess in general, like, what do people use yoga for? What are some of the typical benefits that come from being a yogi like you?
Yogi like me. Typical. I mean, I think I think one of the things is just releasing stress and tension. You know, because there's like everything in our body is all related to, you know, stress. We could have it in like sometimes we're just like shrugging our shoulders. I don't know if you've ever realized that, like your shoulders are just like tense and then they're not really relaxed. Like I've catch myself sometimes doing that throughout the day, and it's just like we hold certain things will just, you know, tighten up when we feel certain, you know, anxieties and things like that. So just like letting that go and like even just stretching, even doing just like simple stretches in the morning or before you go to bed, I think it just has a very positive effect. And just dealing with, I mean, breathing's important too. You know how people say like, okay, just slow down, just take a breath, like breathe, a few deep breaths, you know, because it actually does do something. So when you practice that breath in yoga, I think you're able to more handle stress, you know, and deal with certain situations. And yeah, I would say those are probably the two major things. Well, for me anyway, it is different for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's cool. So do you teach yoga with anyone, or is it just the Janelle show, or
it's just the Janelle show? I know. No, well, I do have a good friend of mine, Brittany. She's also a fellow yoga teacher of mine. She's also Black as well. And like I got a big old smile on my face, but when I said that, no, I love her so much. But we talked about starting a YouTube channel or doing some type of partnership. We've talked about it. We haven't really gotten into details about it yet, but it's something that we both would really enjoy doing. And I think we would be good partners for that. So definitely thinking about it.
Yo, I think the world needs it. I've seen, you know, some of your work because I follow you on social media.
Oh.
I definitely think that you're a great teacher. So
I post like once a year.
That's true. I'll post very often.
Oh, thank you though for yeah.
You bet. So, well, I just think that this is it's always, first of all, it's always great to connect with you and to connect with a fellow Hoover Husky.
Yes.
I'm very proud of your new yoga endeavor, and it's fascinating stuff. It really is. I don't know how you do half of those things. So, so if we want to connect more people your way or send people your way in terms of wanting to learn more about yoga or perhaps take an online lesson or something like that, how can they find you?
For now, you can find me on, I'm like looking at my name again on there. My Instagram is JJ_Zen2. That's where you can find me. You can send me a message, anything like that. I could give my email too, I guess, but those are pretty much the two ways to contact me.
JJ underscore what?
Zen, Zen.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah,
Okay.
two.
JJ
Yeah.
underscore Zen 2.
Yes, and I usually, if you can't find me, then that means I'm not on Instagram anymore. Because I take long breaks occasionally. I'm trying to do better. I'll probably stick with it for a little while, but it's just a distraction, and it's kind of difficult for me to get into social media. So
Let's talk about those social media breaks. I'm taking one too. Yeah, I deactivated my Facebook account like maybe 2 months ago, maybe 3 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, I
So
love it.
and you, yeah. So why do you love it, and why do you do it?
Well, for me, honestly, the only reason why I got back on was to advertise yoga, because I feel like there's really, these days, that's just like the easiest way to send out, it's just marketing. All the companies do it, it's just easy. It's just, that's what we do. But I just have a hard time. I feel like I've generally always been a pretty private person. And so I've just never really been super active, maybe in college when I first got on Facebook, but I just never feel the need to share everything I'm doing all the time. So I just figured, what's the point of being on there? But then I also feel like I'm missing out on things or information. And even if it's news, type stuff, I learn about it like later or something, because like Twitter and all that stuff, things just happen so fast. But I just kind of feel like I'm old school. I'm like, don't belong in this generation. I just can't get into the technology, the social media, the posting everything, sharing everything. It's just overwhelming for me. And it is a distraction, because you kind of fall down this rabbit hole. Like, you see one post, then you lead to another, and then like 5 hours later, it's like, I've been on Instagram. So instead of, when I take those breaks, it's nice, because if I don't have those apps, then I'm like, oh, let me study Japanese now instead, so I just do more productive things with my time when I'm not connected on social media.
Word. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I had to get rid of Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say, how has it been for you?
Well, yeah, fantastic. I mean, so I got off of Facebook, and it just got so disappointing, when you would be cool with somebody, and then you see something that they post or something that they liked, and then in what I hate is like when you read someone's status and then you think about it when you're still like scrolling.
Right.
Because then what that means is that like some random thought that popped into somebody's head, now that's on your brain. And it's like,
right.
why? I don't need to have your stupid thoughts in my head,
Your stupid thoughts. Yeah.
And so especially like when it's one that's disappointing or one that lets you down, and it's just like, there were so many other parts of life, like, under this, kind of climate that we're living in right now, that I was just like, I can't really take any more negativity. So
right. Oh yeah, so much negativity, arguing,
right.
like it's just, it's a lot.
Yeah. There's no conversations, no rules.
Right. People are so bold behind their phone or computer, like typing whatever.
Right.
But,
Exactly. So, yeah, it's been great. I've got Instagram that I use to try to keep things going with the podcast, and I try to post things that are leaning towards anti-racist and stuff like that,
Yes.
And I do like to post pictures of like, my kids being cute.
Yeah.
So I do that on my.
They always are.
On my. Oh please, they're wild. The perfect technology age was the Black Planet days.
Oh, dude, you don't even want to see my Black Planet page. I saw my profile recently, and I was just like, who was I? It was ridiculous.
Oh my gosh, I love Black Planet. Black Planet really taught us all how to do a little bit of coding.
I know. I was just thinking that, like making songs, doing backgrounds, all of that. I don't know who I had do mine. I had somebody do my page. They should have been charging people for that.
It was either me or Dustin Roberts.
Probably. Yeah.
Well, Janelle, it's been a pleasure.
So much fun.
So much fun catching up. So proud of you. Thank you so
Proud
much
of you
for
too.
joining. Thanks so much for joining the show, for being a part of it.
Of course, anytime. I'm so glad you're doing this show.
Oh, thank you.
Very important.
Well, you know, gotta let people know what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.